This is a strange videotape that had been sealed for decades, then used as the basis for a movie. Due to its true content and overly obsessive nature, it caused many viewers to experience convulsions, vomiting, and long-lasting illness. Even stranger is that the investigator specializing in exploring supernatural phenomena, Kobayashi, went missing after he completed the tape. That night, his house suddenly burned down, his wife died in the flames, and Kobayashi disappeared. Since then, the videotape also disappeared. When the television station investigated the Kobayashi incident, they suddenly received a videotape sent by Kobayashi himself. But after watching the tape, they all felt uncomfortable, uneasy without reason, experiencing sadness, anger, dreamlike states, and all kinds of strange reactions, which threw the television station into chaos. To avoid unnecessary consequences, the television station agreed to temporarily store this tape until they could investigate the cause of Kobayashi's disappearance. So, what did Kobayashi go through, causing the whole television station to be in chaos? It all happened in 2002. That day, Kobayashi received a report. He went to the client's house to investigate a spiritual phenomena. She told Kobayashi that half a year ago, a single mother had moved into the house. After that, every night, the sound of a baby crying came. She had visited not just once, but found that there was no baby in the house. Kobayashi immediately went to the house to investigate the incident. No sooner had he stepped out the door than he discovered a ruined place. The air filled with a strong smell of rot, like no one lived in the house. Kobayashi knocked on the door of the house, but was pushed away by a grandmother. He asked the opponent in a sincere voice, but suddenly she became angry. She shouted at him to leave first, but the recorder kept filming. A boy appeared at the indoor window, his face pale, staring at him. Not long after, Kobayashi came again. He went to the client's house to ask for the situation. She told Kobayashi that after the people came to their house, about 4 or 5 days later, the girl next door moved away. Since then, there were no more cries of a baby. Based on her attitude, that crazy woman treated him like that. Could it be that she moved so early? He came to her house to explore again. As expected, he discovered that the family had moved away. Wanting to investigate the clues, Kobayashi searched the furniture in the yard. He found an invoice in the trash and discovered that her name was Junka Ishii. Besides that, he also found dead black fruits in the garden. It seemed to predict something scary was about to happen. Even so, Kobayashi did not notice. It was just that after he said goodbye to the mother who had commissioned him, he left the area. Kobayashi thought that everything was safe. Unexpectedly, the scary incident was just beginning. 5 days later, the mother who had commissioned him died in a car accident. At that time, Kobayashi suddenly received a new mission assigned by the TV station. He had to join a colleague to go to the suburbs to film a horror program. They set up the camera preparing to film. But the program had just started shortly. A female guest suddenly heard a man calling her name. She thought that her colleagues were joking, so she talked to everyone. But unexpectedly, people constantly denied it. When everyone was feeling suspicious, she suddenly rolled to the ground and screamed nonstop, as if something had entered her. The colleague said that the guest was definitely playing tricks to increase the program's effect, so they still did not pay attention to the guest. Until they were cutting to a different scene, they finally saw a scary ghost. To clarify that scary ghost, Kobayashi came to find that female guest. At this time, her face was very pale, as if she had just gone through something scary. She told Kobayashi that starting from the day of filming that segment, she often drew unconscious paintings. Even every day after she woke up, on the table, there would also be strange circles that made her ill from the hair-raising feeling. She said that there was definitely something in the house. After hearing that, Kobayashi installed a camera in the house of the female guest to see if all of these things were done by anyone. But the next morning when she woke up, it was discovered that all of these things were done by her. In the end, Kobayashi understood. The incident was just as the guest had said. She had been entered by something. But Kobayashi did not understand the reason for it, nor did he know why it had entered this guest. Until one day, a girl went missing strangely. Kobayashi investigated this case. He discovered an extremely devilish clue in it. According to her parents, before the girl went missing, there was a strange man, a person covered in aluminum plates, who came to the house to find their daughter several times. He still mumbled a few sentences, making people not understand. Even before he left, he also stuffed a leaflet into the door slot. At first, her parents did not notice, but when their daughter was missing, they found a leaflet on her table. On it was drawn a bizarre circle, like the one drawn by the female guest. At this time, Kobayashi saw that these two cases were closely related. In addition to that, Kobayashi also discovered a girl's writing. On the leaflet, she wrote 3 large words, "Save me." So Kobayashi guessed that before she was missing, she certainly had to go through something very scary, which is why she wrote for help. Because he wanted to investigate the cause behind it, Kobayashi relied on the details that the parents recounted and quickly found that strange man. But surprisingly, a man was a very famous psychic in the area. Why did he appear at the missing girl's house? Kobayashi asked for her name. No doubt after saying that, the opponent suddenly became impatient and worried, his mouth still mumbling something. Then he took Kobayashi's backpack, took out an object for devil worship, then put his left hand up as if he was touching something. As for his right hand, he constantly drew a round symbol on the blank paper, his mouth constantly mumbling a few bizarre words. Not waiting for Kobayashi to clarify everything, he suddenly looked towards Kobayashi. Then he started chanting again. Kobayashi hurriedly tried to intervene, but no matter what he did, he could not stop the opponent. As a last resort, he just beat the filmer to leave this place. But when the two of them had just come out, the filmmaker told Kobayashi the scene just now was a bit strange. Because he wanted to clarify what had happened and also wanted to investigate what the disaster was, he contacted many theology experts. But after making a few phone calls, there was no clue. When Kobayashi felt there was no progress, a cultural expert called him. He said he knew about those rumors. Hearing that, Kobayashi immediately came to the opponent's house. At this time, he learned the scene of the movie was derived from a very strange village, a tree village, where there was a group of wizards living. The type of magic they used was called a disaster soul, also the soul of the tremor. This type of charm is very strong. The person who performs the spell will be bitten by the charm, but just writing the name of another person on the disaster charm will form an extremely strong resentment, and the contact will die firmly. This group of witches, because they did not want to be bitten back, held a worshipping ceremony every year to appease the calamity. Until 20 years ago, the authorities wanted to renovate the tree village into a huge warehouse, so the witches had to move out of there. But that worshipping ceremony also had no one to organize it. Just in the last ritual, someone used a camera to record the process of bowing. Due to occupational habit, Kobayashi got the filmer's contact address. Based on that address, Kobayashi went to the filmer's house. They finally learned the truth about the ceremony that year from this man. It turned out that during the ritual, the girl who shouldered the disaster was constantly convulsing, as if some evil force had entered her. No matter what the witches did, it was impossible to stop this unintended story. They all stopped, only temporarily ending the ritual. They planned to modify and supplement the ceremony the next year, but they still had not waited until then. Their village had been renovated into water warehouses. The people in the village left, and in turn, the ceremony of worshipping that spirit was lost. But there is still a scary legend handed down from that group of witches. It is said that if the bowing ritual is not completed, the disaster will be completely released, leaving a power unable to be destroyed. The witch who chaired the worshipping ceremony also disappeared and died strangely not long after. Fortunately, a few days ago, the witch's daughter had returned from the city, now living in the old mobile house of that old witch. And she is also the girl who displayed the disaster in that palace ceremony. After Kobayashi listened, he immediately made the connection. At the same time, he was very interested in this case. Curiosity led him to the village where that girl was in. No doubt that he had just arrived, the scene before his eyes caused him to suddenly stand on the spot. He saw that around this place was full of very strange strings and circles, very complicated. Kobayashi immediately could not help but think about it. When the female guest and the missing girl incident happened, she also drew the same cycle on the paper. It is similar to the ropes in this village, unless these two things have a certain relationship. Because he wanted to investigate the truth, Kobayashi courageously continued to enter the girl's house. But as he just came inside, he saw a girl scolding herself angrily. But she was the woman that Kobayashi had met before in the house next to the client's house, Junko Ishii. At this time, Kobayashi was very surprised. He thought he was having an illusion. Certainly about Junko there was something hidden. So Kobayashi began to ask for information related to Junko from the surrounding neighbors. But they either refused to say or advised him not to get involved. After a few times back and forth, Kobayashi knocked on the door of a household, thinking that he would leave again with disappointment. But he did not expect this time to find the right person. Previously, this girl was Junko's friend. She told Kobayashi that formerly Junko was still a normal girl, but since the worshipping ceremony that time, after something unintended, her spirit became abnormal. Sometimes she even talked nonsense. Finally, Kobayashi understood. It turned out that Junko was really the disaster. But the strange things that have happened before are also related to Junko. After that, Kobayashi still wanted to continue asking about the soul of disaster. But just as he spoke, the girl was as if controlled by something and turned to leave like a devil. The incident came to there, as the truth is also clear. So Kobayashi started the journey back to Tokyo. But when he had just returned to the office, the female guest suddenly came. She said that after she filmed the program last time, her 7 good friends were affected by ghosts. They hanged themselves in the park. In addition to that, her spirit also became panicked. She even often emitted strange. She felt like she was entered by something. So she sincerely asked for Kobayashi to help her. He saw her and took her to the psychic. But when they entered, he saw a scene of very strange evil. The psychic hid himself in an aluminum wrap. His mouth kept making a sentence. Kobayashi did not understand what he meant. He showed the video of her tremor. No doubt, a second later, the psychic immediately rolled into a lump. His whole person was trembling non-stop. Seeing the spirit of the psychic become unstable, they just had to find another way. So the two of them relied on the suggestions of the psychic and went towards the largest water warehouse in the area. But this is also the place where the cluster ceremony had been held 20 years ago. But when they just arrived, the psychic was also here. They saw him shouting the name of the missing girl, then ran into the forest like crazy. Kobayashi felt hurriedly chased. The two ran from morning until it was dark, but they still kept walking. On the way, Kobayashi discovered many animal bodies. The psychic also kept screaming. When he was feeling afraid and insecure, a barrier suddenly appeared from afar, formed from black crows, in which the area was full of animal bodies. Kobayashi was threatened to the end. At that time, a very strange sound was repeated constantly from the hands of the psychic. He seemed to be suffering from something. He ran frantically to a temple. The female guest in the car suddenly appeared. She kept screaming. Kobayashi was shocked and did not know how. Then he discovered the shape of the string pattern he saw in the village. Beside the stone, he had not yet reacted. Suddenly, the psychic was threatened by something and fell to the ground. He trembled to the left, seemingly seeing something very scary. Kobayashi carefully switched on the infrared light of the camera. At this time, the psychic and the female guest were constantly twitching. She used their best to take them to the hospital. To investigate the whole truth of this story, Kobayashi came to her house again. But he knocked on the door for half a day without seeing anyone answer. As a last resort, Kobayashi just climbed in through the window. No doubt, just inside, he discovered inside a mask of disasters and ropes, like the scene of a small worshipping ceremony. But he saw her trembling in the corner of the room. She had hanged herself on the floor and died. In addition to that, Kobayashi also found the boy they had filmed last time, in the house from the previous wall. And the female gender. Seeing the shape, it was probable her body had been missing for a long time. Kobayashi hurriedly reported to the police. But this unknown horror case has ended here. The disaster of her tremor also disappeared completely, along with her death. Thanks to that, the guest became normal. But the spirit of the psychic is still abnormal, so he was taken to a mental hospital. Only Kobayashi was the luckiest person. Among them, Kobayashi not only saved the boy, but he and his wife also intended to adopt the boy. But did the incident end here? In fact, not. One evening, suddenly the psychic escaped from the mental hospital. He came to Kobayashi's house with a crazy appearance and told him something. After that, the psychic suddenly stormed into the house, grabbed the boy's collar, then used a stone in his hand to beat the boy. Kobayashi hurriedly ran to the base, but the psychic pushed him to the ground. At that time, the boy stood up in a weird way and completely turned into the shape of the disaster. Her missing ghost also appeared in the corner. Even the wife of Kobayashi was hit by the curse of the soul of disaster. In her mouth, she kept mumbling non-stop. Kobayashi saw that and then completely collapsed. But a second later, suddenly the psychic returned to normal. Only saw him holding the stone in his hand beat Kobayashi to the ground. Then he took the boy to leave here. Kobayashi tried to struggle but could not stand up, as if some invisible power was pressing him to the floor. Later, his wife also walked towards the kitchen as if ghosts were imported. She poured a barrel of oil on herself, then lit the fire, setting herself and the house ablaze. At this time, the video recording of the devil finally had an end. But the next day, the police came to investigate the scene. Then they only discovered the wife of Kobayashi. So where is Kobayashi? Has the soul of disaster gone? If it is really so, then it is about to lift a new array of charms. The movie ends here.